for me, nothing says winter has begun more than a worsted or bulky weight textural sweater. And I feel like Shannon never lets me down when it comes to really great texture. Hi, I'm Michelle. This is my so-called handmade life. I have a blog by the same name, and that is my name on Instagram. On Ravelry, I am Mamatronic. This is a knitting, crochet, handmaking, DIY, homemaking, whatever I feel like talking about kind of podcast where I ask you questions often and you respond, and your responses to whatever I speak about kind of guides what I speak about the next time. And on a typical episode, I have a specific question, but often, I just welcome anything you would have to say. This isn't a normal episode. I've challenged myself this week to get faster with producing things like filming and editing and putting stuff out. And it's hard for me to abbreviate. And so I thought I would just do one little mini episode on this test knit that I just finished, the Lately Pullover by Shannon Cook. Give me a second. You like those little ends peeking out? And this is my so-called finished object. No, I haven't gotten around to weaving in all of the ends yet because it's freaking hot here. And I'm sweating wearing this, but oh, I do love it. And I'm gonna so love wearing it when the weather gets cooler. So Shannon is very Shannon, you probably know, and on Instagram, and that's her blog name, her website. But she is one of my favorite designers. I think I just like her personally, like what I know of her and her presence online. And then also I've enjoyed every one of her patterns that I've ever made. And so I actually had this yarn, it's Woolstok worsted in October Sky. I had this colorway set aside for her Veronica cardigan, which is an easy fitting, almost poncho-y fitting cardigan that she came out with a few years ago. And I wanted to make it and I gotta do that, and I haven't done it yet. So when I saw this test call and I saw the yardage required, I thought, ooh, I have the perfect amount. I'll use my Woolstok worsted. And I am trying to kind of match projects with stash that I have, using as much of that stash as possible. I don't want a ton of leftovers. So I picked this Woolstok, and it's a heathered kind of denim like color. It's very casual. I think it fits the casual kind of sporty detailing on this sweater. And I've been craving a cabled knit, so I got to do cables again. So this was a pretty quick test knit. Like, I think we had 3, maybe 4 weeks to do it. And let me just show it to you. I know I have workout clothes on, but over my workout clothes, I have the most lovely sweater. It's meant to hit kind of high hip, and mine is actually the correct length for the pattern, even though I did add a repeat of this little cable stitch. I added that much, like an inch. And somehow along the way, my gauge changed, like I talked to you about in my last episode 69, that my gauge is just variable. It changes all the time. And one of the things I mentioned was that stress can change. Actually, we asked AI, can stress change your gauge? And it can. And this is living proof, because I was like, this is a bit difficult to measure my gauge. It was a bit difficult with the cable pattern. And my swatch came out perfect. So somewhere along the way, I tightened up. And we actually had like a family emergency, and like a week, 10 days, I was like not able to really knit. And when I got back to it, I think my gauge was tighter. And it kind of pulled things in and up a bit. I'm not normal. This won't affect your ability to get gauge on this. No one else had that trouble. Isn't it great? And also you can be measuring and trying it on your body and saying, do I want more length or not? A lot of people who knit it didn't want a high hip fit. They wanted a mid to low hip, and they actually lengthened it. I actually like this high hip. I have a long torso. So this is the top of my hip right here, my hip bone. So it's pretty high. However, if I make another one, and I really want to, and in fact, Shannon is going to have a summer sweater knit along again. Like, she kind of founded the summer sweater knit along, which was one of the biggest knit alongs going, I think, on Ravelry, and always so much fun. And if she does that, I think I will knit another one, and I might do it in a cotton wool blend, so I get a little more wear out of it in Texas. And I want it to have even more ease. And I might not make that extra repeat and let it be a bit cropped. I think that cropped with this little drawstring would be so cute, you know, and you can have it very loose or you can tighten it up like I have. I don't know if I've showed you the back. I also found with this pattern that the sleeves flew by. So I told you I had like something come up and I like was out. I wasn't able to knit for, say, a week. I got behind, but I caught right back up. Even with sleeves, this little bit of cabling made the sleeves fly. And I feel that worsted goes pretty quickly. Anyway, but you know, if you could stall out on sleeves, as many of us do. So I did the size for a 39-inch bust. That gave me a little bit of ease because it's a little larger than I am. It gave me plenty of ease. I wanted about 5 inches of ease, 4 to 5 inches, and I really think I got that. Then I used size 5 and 7 needles to get gauge. And I recommend do a very large gauge swatch of this. So 6x6 is typically what I do. This is actually a 9-inch repeat. I suggest do something wide for this. In fact, that might be a suggestion in the pattern itself, just so you make sure, because it's measured over the length of the entire stitch pattern for the cable, the gauges. The drawstring is so cool. And I was thinking, if I made a larger one, wouldn't it be cool to make it like in a traditional heathered gray, just like a kind of easygoing sweatshirt. And then I might even use a real cotton drawstring or make my drawstring out of cotton, kind of like I did in that Spring League hoodie. However, I was very proud of how my drawstring, I made it with I-cord on the Spring League hoodie. It looked very professional and like something you would buy at a sportswear store. However, this drawstring just was crazy fast. It's not I-cord. It's so fast and so easy. I would do a different color for the drawstring and make it a little more ease, maybe a little shorter, but I do think I like this drawstring method. It's just at some point in I-cord, you just feel like this is oppressive. It's just going on for so long. And this thing, I mean, it was done in like one short episode of something. So I can't recommend it enough. And I think I told you it's on sale right now. There's a 10% off discount, I think, if you buy right away. And there's going to probably be a knit along this summer for it. I wanted to talk about a few more of Shannon's things that I've actually knit. This is my 3rd sweater from her. I also made her Antrush sweater. And I loved that. Yeah, her first book collaboration with Jane Richmond was Journey. And I knit a couple of the patterns out of this, and her sweater was one that I made, Antrush. I just thought that yoke and collar was so cool. I just thought that was so cool. I loved the buttons, and this is where I learned the 1-row buttonhole. It's just a really ingenious, quick way. It's super satisfying to make. And this entire kind of a relief, the textural relief of this like chevron or arrow. relief. I just love it. I cannot fit in mine now. It doesn't fit me. It was a bulky weight sweater, and I held 2 strands of worsted wool of the Andes together, and I loved it. It was very warm, so I didn't get to wear it a ton because I live in a warmer climate, but I loved it. I would love to have another one. The other thing I made out of here was the Inland Cardigan by Jane Richmond. It doesn't fit either. So there's a couple of things I still would like to make from this book, and one is Shannon's Onward shawl. I like the, again, the texture. I'm just all about texture. That's the one that's on the cover. I would really like to make that. And the other knit I would like is to make these Spate fingerless gloves. So that was my first sweater to make by Shannon. The next one I did, Capsule. Capsule is a excellent, you know what, I probably ought to just put it on. I think I'll try. Okay, so Capsule was my next sweater to make by her, and I've gained weight since I made it. It had a little more ease, which I personally, this fits, this is fine. But I personally like a lot of ease in my sweaters because I like to be able to wear a long sleeve tee and pull a sweater on and not have to do a bunch of yanking and adjusting. So this is not how I would typically make a sweater in the arms to fit me. But look at these pockets. They're at the perfect length. I love this interesting textural stitch. And for this, I didn't use a fancy yarn. I used one of my budget favorites, Patons Classic Worsted. And this is the Natural Mix colorway. And I think there's a new version of Natural Mix and it looks more taupe or tan. This version has so much variation. It made it seem really high end, like a really nice blend of wool. There's some pink and some gray, some, you know, it's just a pearly taupe color. I think it's special. So I really enjoyed making this. I think about a year or two ago, I added length to the sleeves because I had, when I first made it, I think sometimes when you gain a little weight, it'll draw your sleeves up a bit. That might have happened, but also when I first made it, I did all the measuring, I put it on, I was like, this feels right, and I was impatient to finish and wear it. And then I would wear it, but I always felt like I was yanking. So I just added a little length because I found that last ball of Natural Mix that matched. So this is a perfect cardigan to throw on over stuff. And I feel like this stitch is really tidy. Like all the details, the ribbing, this little bit of ribbing for an edge at the top of the pocket, and the construction of the pocket was a lot of fun. This textural ribbing, all of it to me, it looks very refined. You could wear this over a dress, you could wear it somewhere nice. Mine is quite pilly because I wear it all the time, but you could also throw it on over your jammies and you're fine. So this was a big win for me. The other sweater of hers that I would like to make is Veronica, I told you about. I do have some Brooklyn tweed Old World shelter that I would like to make that with. And the thing I like, this is really a good kind of knit for me because my weight will sometimes go up and down. I don't know if you're like me, it has to do with hormonal fluctuations. Like one year, the next year it's different. And it stays within a range, but it varies. And I really like having clothing. First of all, I hate things that feel too constricting all the time. I'm always that way. But I like having something that can adapt with me. So I feel like Veronica is the kind of thing you could wear over a sweater, over a sweatshirt or something heavier. It has a lot of extra ease built into it. But if I were to gain a little, lose a little, it wouldn't be a deal breaker with that sweater. And I always appreciate something like that. And truly Capsule is that way. I mean, I'm at least a size, maybe 2 sizes larger than I was, sizes, larger than I was when I made it, and it still fits, but I did make it to have a bit of positive ease. So I don't know. I just always appreciate a sweater, a cardigan, things like that that can adapt with you very easily, because there's nothing worse than putting hours, weeks into making something, and then when the season rolls around, it doesn't fit. Another thing I used not fancy yarn for of Shannon's was her Feyre shawl. Shawl. Did you hear that? I'm not from Texas, you all. I said a shawl. Okay. This was originally in, I think, newsprint by Brooklyn Tweed. That's what the sample was in. Oh, look, I spilled some food on it. I've used it a time. I don't always like a very long crescent like this on me. I often found that they didn't hang right, but this hung perfectly. And I loved the way the ends would curl. It just looks so sculptural when I would wear it. I don't know if I will get that look trying it on now, and I will definitely get a sweat mustache, you guys, but I just love it so much. See how it kind of, the ends curl? It's very sculptural. So wearing it like a typical around the neck shawl, you got this, but it also looks really good wearing it granny style, you know, over your shoulders. And you still get that lovely sculptural curling. I really loved the textural stripes. She has a few patterns like this where she, for her accessories, there's striping happening, which I always appreciate, but interesting texture along the way. So I used Patons Aran color, and I think it was dark gray mix. And you can see that dark gray mix is really just a marled. It's just dark gray, charcoal, and like this Aran color marled. And it's a little harder to find that yarn now, but I still think it's sold online, maybe at Joann or some other place. Very affordable, and just one of my favorite shawls to have made. I think it's, I've always gotten so many compliments on it. All right, another satisfying shawl of hers that I made was Bradway. I don't have it, but I'm going to show some pictures. Bradway, in fact, I remember as I made it thinking, as I was like binding off, I think I enjoyed the process of making this more than anything I've ever made up till this point. And it wasn't because it was a shawl. The colors are really fun. To me, they were very, that like neo-preppy 2015 pink and blue, and I don't know. I felt like they were cute. They were very of the moment. But I just think it was similar to this. There's striping, there's texture, and worsted wool, and I don't know. I really just enjoy making things that Shannon designed. It was probably also the time in my life. It was a very chaotic time, and so knitting was completely my solace in the evenings. It was my just calm time. But I do remember casting that off and thinking, I loved every second of this. I have given that shawl away. And in fact, I waited to give it away until I had another comparable as far as, you know, a soothing experience, very Shannon shawl to replace it. After I made the Courage shawl, this one's a pretty recent pattern by her. After I made this, I was like, okay, I can let go of Bradway, and I gave it to a friend who I think has enjoyed having it. But I love this one because I didn't use Patons for it. It called for spin cycle, the sample did. I loved it because it was like 2 skeins of spin cycle. I could afford that. At the time, I did not have a spin cycle type knitting budget, but I really enjoyed that it was a small dose of it, enough that anyone could probably get their hands on it. And at the time, I didn't know of any alternatives to spin cycle, which spin cycle is still super special yarn. I think the other colors are Driftwood and Dark Chocolate from Woolstok worsted, the same yarn as I used here. I think I got this, the Woolstok for this, from Firefly Fibers, which is a online yarn and supply store that I love to be a patron of when I can. So the whole thing was just super special. I love the stitches, the design, the colors. Oh man, these colors. I forget. I'm going to flash what this Spin Cycle colorway is. I don't remember. But yeah, this was special. So once I had it, I was like, okay, I'll let go of Broadway. I am trying to thin out my accessories, my shawls and sweaters. I'm trying, but it's very hard. It's kind of like those two sweaters from Journey. I still am hanging on to, like, maybe one day they'll fit because I love them and I really want to wear them. I just need to make more and then I can let go of them. Anyway, so Courage was very enjoyable knit for me. Oh, another one that I truly love how it came out. Now, when I knit Broadway, I hadn't knit many shawls yet. So the next one that I did, I believe I did this after Broadway, was Lalo. And I think I just started watching the Gilmore Girls for the first time. It was like 2015. I had never watched it. And I didn't have a lot of shawl experience. So this was fingering weight sock yarn. And it's got a neat, again, a little textural detail that's sort of striping, perfect for a variegated yarn. And one thing that made this special was it was fun to make, and it was Gynx Yarns. So this was caramel and berries. And I don't think she made much of this colorway, but she dyed it to match her Goth Girl colorway, which she sold quite a bit of. And I feel like this was that time period where burgundies were kind of a big deal. Earthy mauve type colors were kind of making a comeback. And so this is also kind of, I don't know, a link to that era for me. And it had some sparkle yarn in it, which this Goth Girl has little twinkle sparkle. It actually has a lot of dog hair and my hair in it too. But that little bit of sparkle is so sweet. I'm not a glittery type person. So it's kind of weird that I enjoy this so much. Anyway, it's another fun one. I usually wear my shawls like this. But this is one of those shaped shawls that you can see this shaping. It really fits well around your back. It will stay put on your shoulders. So, and these colors, I had a ton of clothing at the time that went with it. So it got a lot of wear, and sock yarn, fingering, lighter weight. It's gonna get a little more wear where I live. Dreke is another one of her patterns. Now this version, I'm gonna put it on and screw up my already screwed up hair. This version is in an all alpaca yarn I got from, I don't remember. I just remember the name of the alpaca it came from was either Indy or Hayden. And it's a textural pattern. I'll flash one that I knit for a friend that was not in alpaca. It was in worsted wool, and the texture really pops. It looks really great. So this was a fun make. I've made at least 2 of these. So I told you she did that book journey with Jane Richmond, and this is the Lalo that I just showed you that I did in Gynx Yarns. That's from this mini collection, and I haven't knit the other things in this collection, but I was glad to grab a physical copy of the little booklet. But then they did the Within book, several patterns in here. Every single one of them I would love to make, every single one. But what I chose to make, only made 2 so far. I did make Fireside, the sweater from Jane. But I made Hudson out of Cascade Eco. Let me show you the Hudson shawl. The picture here is really nice. If I can get to it. Okay. I always thought these colors looked so pretty with red hair. So here we go. So you're seeing texture, a little bit of like lace, eyelets, striping, all of it. And yeah, really fun to make with Cascade Eco. So it was pretty affordable. I mean, I had to buy a ton, right? You buy these big things, but then I had enough left over for a second one, I think. And I just haven't made the second one. I was going to make this for me, and I'll show you a picture of it. Mine had similar earthy colors, but my grandmother expressed interest in it, and she never expressed interest. In the beginning, I think I told you about this in my million sweater episode, like 100 sweaters. In the beginning, she was like really excited that I was hand making. She's like, oh, I'd like something, but the kind of stuff I made, just, you know, I wasn't great at it, or it just really was, she didn't really want it. So at some point she quit asking for, you know, hand knits. And once I said, I'll make a lace, like a vintage looking sweater for you if you would like. This is when she was in assisted living and she was always cold in the building. She said, what I'd really like is a koozie. And so I was like, forget it. I am not making a lace sweater for someone who would prefer a koozie. But when she saw my Hudson, she said, that might keep me warm in the dining hall. So I had to give it to her, you know. And it made me happy to think she did wear it some. It was wool, Texas. She was never a wool wearer, so, but I think she liked it. And so after she passed away, my daughter got it, and now I need another one. I want another Hudson for me. Just fun to make. And I don't know, as I made it, I don't know, it was sort of like making it for my grandmother. It was like a tribute to her. And that makes me think of Shannon's Landsbury cowl. I haven't made it. And usually when I make a cowl, it is just for like walking in the freezing cold. So I don't make cowls very often, and they're usually like super big and little to wear on our traditional like winter hike we'll do. But it's so sweet, just a cabled cowl. And for people who wear them all the time and like a worsted weight or lighter weight, it would be a really good thing to wear under a jacket. I just like it because it's about Angela Lansbury, right? It's based on her. She would watch Murder, She Wrote with her grandmother, and so she made that pattern with her grandmother in mind. And I thought that was so sweet. I have those same feelings about Remington Steele. I would watch it with my mom, and to this day, like every couple of years, I'll rewatch the whole season, like for a pick-me-up. I literally can't stop smiling while I'm watching it. It was not the greatest show on television. However, it was completely underrated. It was much better than people would say. And I can't believe more people don't remember this series, but whatever. I don't know. I thought it was sweet. And then later she made the Elfrid pattern for her in honor of her grandmother. And I want to make that. I don't know. That's very sweet to me. That's very special that she made it in honor of her grandmother. And I have some shelter to make it. So I don't know. It feels kind of full circle like. One of her designs, I got to honor my grandmother with it, and then knitting, I don't know, the design she made in memory of her grandmother. I think I'm really drawn to people who are sentimental toward the elders in their family. I love that, and I really connect to that. So I just feel like it would be really sweet to make her design that's in honor of her grandmother. I think it's sweet that she did that. Isn't it strange how we can feel a connection with people that we've never met because we've made something they designed, or oh, she has a grandmother, I have a grandmother. I mean, we all have a grandmother, but she loved her grandmother. I love my grandmother, you know. she has this thing with her family, I have that thing with mine, and it's kind of how like we connect, you guys and me, through things we talk about in the comments. My starting this podcast really was sort of kind of in memory of my grandmother. It was because I missed her presence and our talking. We talked almost every day, and I missed it, so I started talking to you in this podcast. So I don't know, I'm sentimental that way, and I'm always just drawn to people who are too. So so things I want to make of Shannon's: Songbird. I have some Shelter, and I think Artifact. I love greens. Set Aside. I would love to make her Songbird shawl in that. So much texture. And I wanted to let you know that she has quite a few, she has at least 2 free patterns, maybe more, on her Ravelry store. The Farb cowl is a super bulky cowl. It's like 2-tone. It would be a really good gift knit, I think, at Christmas, and it's good for all those super bulky yarns you might have around, but you don't have a ton of for like a sweater, but maybe you grab some at the craft store here and there on sale. That's a good one, and it's free. And then her Yarnster hat is like a little slouchy beanie. That one's also free. I also have some Quarry for her Tamatique hat. That looks like just a lot of fun. She's really big on texture, and her details are, I just think they're really fine. But another one I want to make in Within is her Timber sweater. And it's a classic cardigan, but you can see the placement of the ribbing. I just thought it was really special. It was when it came out, and it still is to me. I had some Cascade set aside for it. I don't know if I have enough to make a sweater for me now, but I do have some Valley yarns that was specially dyed by Madeline Tosh forever ago, and it's like the Whiskey Barrel colorway, which is such a good brown earthy color. I think that would be really nice. And the other thing I want to make of Jane's in this is this mega huge scarf in twine. I have some Viking Dale of Norway yarn, like just enough to make it. So I thought that would be fun. I will probably be joining her knit along with gray yarn. Probably some Knit Picks Dove Heather in Wool of the Andes. And oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to dig it out of that nightmare closet. It's at the bottom. But I want a comfy gray sweatshirt looking version, and I want it to be maybe cropped, but with even more ease than my Lately has. Very casual amount of ease, and I will get my ends woven in. I know I'm the worst about the ends, but that's what makes me me. So how about you? Have you made anything from Shannon Cook? Is there any of her patterns that you're interested in? Are you thinking about joining her knit along? I definitely think you should. I've always enjoyed her summer sweater knit alongs. It might be via Instagram and not as much Ravelry now, since a lot of people can't do Ravelry. I'm not sure, but there'll be definitely a lot of inspiration. So, all right, nice to talk to you, and I'm fixing to film 2 more things about summer knits. So no more sweating for today.